always felt like I'm on the outside, never fit in, watch the world pass me by. Black hole trying to chase a sunrise. Every day I was on my own, can't see my hurt cause I'm a ghost. In the crowd I still felt alone, yeah. But then we found each other and everything turned around. From broken heart to another, you never let me down. You never let me down. Ooh. Even when my world gets all fucked up and comes crashing to the ground, you never let me down. You never let me down.
A real clock.
Can you feel it? The fire in your soul, leaving at the chance for love. Can you feel it? Haunting your senses, letting all your feelings go. But I can feel it, rushing through my veins. Your love's the only drug I know. But we've been playing the hand now we're dealt,
Yeah.
but we can light it up. I know that we can make it through the night, but I can feel the fire inside, so there won't be no fear tonight. We crossed the line, and now it's clear to see the light behind the suffering. Believe we'll finally be free.
Okay. What's up? Okay.
Baby, it's our chance to make a start so we can fly.
I know that we will make it. I know that we will make it.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Down in the Valley. My name is Edson Ochoa, and accompanying me, but you can't see him today because technical issues. Why not? Skype can be really, really weird, but here with us in spirit is Jacob Young. Jacob, how you doing, man?
Doing fine. Looking forward to speaking about the Toros, man. I mean, a lot of soccer to catch up on since, of course, the Gold Cup and the World Cup. But other than that, looking forward to it.
And it's been a while, honestly. I mean, we were technically the last real Down in the Valley episode was the crossover about a month ago. Yeah, I'm honestly like really sorry about that, guys. You know, I just had just some scheduling issues, and then I left for vacation to Philly. Don't ask me about Philly. But okay, everything looks good. Okay, Blues, thank you so much. See, Blues remembers to remind me about my microphone. Thank you so much, Blues. Alex Centeno, how you doing? Welcome back to another episode of Down in the Valley. But we're back. We should be back on our regular schedule now. Unless the Dynamo play another midweek match.
Dynamo or Toros. Toros might play
Yeah,
midweek match.
that's true as well. But other than that, we'll be back every Wednesday at 7 p.m. But throughout this month, there's been a lot of interesting topics that we would like to catch up on, and obviously the first one would be the match against Austin Bold. Kind of leading on into where we're at right now. Yes, Alex. I did try a cheesesteak from Gino Steaks. It was really good, and I ordered mine with provolone. But going up into that match against Austin Bold, we talked with the guys from the Three Birds Bold cast, if you remember, Jacob. And one of the things that we said was like we felt like this was going to be a really respite match. Like there was going to be fouls going on, tempers were gonna flare up, and if I'm not mistaken, it actually went through without 100%.
Yeah, it 100% did. I mean, I'm going to plug myself real quick on my YouTube channel, Tip of Texas Sports Network. It was funny.
Go ahead.
It was at the end of the game, and well, I think it was Caliche and number 15 for the Bold. Right at the end of the game, they were talking crap to each other a bit. A couple of coaches had to get at least, I think, the Bold player away from Caliche because he was just trying to talk to him right in his face. Reminded me of beautiful NASCAR because sometimes that happens. Tempers do flare, and tempers did boil over even after the 90 minutes. So that was something pretty crazy considering, it was just a physical match. And that's what you want in a rivalry game, to say so the least, considering technically RGVFC had already beaten them once this season. Yes, a lot of people can say, well, it was preseason, and of course, they had all their players. We did, and they did not. So it was a lot of basically just the both things going back and forth. But yeah, it was a very physical match indeed, and one team, of course, got the better of the other.
One of the things I did want to talk about that match, I didn't see it that day because I got invited to a barbecue that Sunday. But going back and watching and kind of going over the match, it seemed to be, and I think one of the points that was talked about on that show was the mental aspect. How are these teams going to react to the physical play? And it seemed like in that regard, Austin Bold had the Toros pretty much beat. They were able to get in their heads. They stopped focusing on playing the beautiful soccer that they do, and they just started focusing on seeing how they can try and get back against the Austin Bold players for the fouls they committed, or try to get it in the other players' heads instead of actually focusing on scoring goals and creating the plays that they know how to do.
Yeah, it was a bit of both for sure. And what I mean by a bit of both is just, they weren't necessarily too focused on playing the game. Half the time as well, the ref, if I do recall correctly, was not necessarily, he wasn't calling the game, some would say, correctly, as in he was letting a couple of things slide, which is fine. In a soccer game, you want a couple of things to slide, whether you're both teams. It doesn't matter if one team didn't get called for the foul, because yes, he did let a couple of things slide on both ends, which was fine, and of course called a bit more, I think, towards Austin, but that's besides the point. They left the Toros able to just, not focus up, and then you had Chuy Enriquez and a couple of other players, the same deal, just really upset at the end of the match, and just during the match as well, just not necessarily being able to focus up and figuring out, okay, we got to stop playing like this. as well and focus on. And I think it was right at that point that we knew, well, yeah, this is going to be a tough game. We'll see what happens.
But it was something that I honestly expected, and I don't think I mentioned it, but I honestly expected things to go out the way they did. Why? Because we have a lot of young players. We don't really have that huge veteran besides Connor Donovan. We don't really have that lengthy veteran that is able to control the tempers of the team, that is able to kind of be a lot more a lot more able to defend them and get them on the right track. Tempers flared. One of the things my dad always tells me in Spanish is more along the lines like once you get mad, once you let your tempers flare up, you lose. Because, like I mentioned, you start focusing on other things rather than actually focusing on playing your style. And like I said, I really expected that to happen against Austin Bold, because Austin Bold is full of a lot of veterans, and they know how to play around the rules of the game to try to get that advantage. Maybe they may not be the fastest players out there, but they know how to get in these young guys' heads for them to stop focusing on what they have to do.
Yeah, exactly. The first yellow card was issued to Castellanos in the 22nd minute.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second yellow was an Austin Bold player, and Austin Bold got the last two fouls in that first half, and they were cards. And then a couple of substitutions, and then you got that goal from Andre Lima. I think I'm saying his name correctly, but 1-0 in that 49th minute.
Yeah, that's correct.
And then, of course, another yellow card from Austin Bold FC. And so then you didn't have a lot of yellow cards until Kyle Adams and then another Austin Bold player, a couple of them. But, I mean, and both those yellow cards from Castellanos to Kyle Adams were more tactical than anything. Why? Because they're the last line of defense before the goalkeeper. You've got to stop them from scoring. And, of course, yeah, it was also a couple of things of just like they were kind of lax with the ball. They didn't necessarily have an opportunity to really put the ball in the back of the net, and they just seemed like, and they were out. It showed. They were just outplayed in general, and it's pretty funny. I might be thinking of a different game, but if I'm not mistaken, one of our players came up on Twitter and said, "Hey, that's all on me right there."
Yeah, that was this match. It was Robert Coronado. He ended up deleting that tweet, as far as I know. But the point is, and going into that, you look at the goal of the match. The biggest difference, because honestly, if you look at the stats, it was a very, 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 very equal game. There was very little to set them apart, but Austin knew how to provoke a mistake, and that was the difference that gave them that 1-0 lead. Robert Coronado, instead of booting that ball, outside, because one of the things that was always told to me growing up, playing when I was in the youth soccer, I sucked, but that's a completely different story. But one of the things my dad would always tell me, because he was an all-star defender in the Valley, in high school, in his high school years. So he knows what he's talking about. But one of the things he always told me was never risk the ball inside of your own box. And in that goal play, that's exactly what happened. Robert Coronado receives the ball. He tries to dribble past number 10 from Austin Bold, which is I'm not going to attempt it, and I don't want to screw it up. But number 10, is smart enough to anticipate what Robert Coronado is going to do, and is able to tow the ball away from him. And he takes the shot that Nico Corti, I don't know, the ball must have moved on him or something, or it was just going too fast. And so he leaves the rebound over to Andre Lima, who just pretty much taps it in. And I really, really liked that Robert Coronado had the maturity, pretty much the maturity, the courage to go out there in social media and say, you know what, this is all on me. I applaud it because I wish there were more players, and not necessarily in RGVFC. I wish there were more players in general who would man up and say, this was my bad. It's not, I understand what happened, and it's not going to happen again.
Yeah. I mean, and Coronado probably knows this now, especially because, you think it's your fault on the Saturday night or on the Sunday night, and then it comes up Monday or Tuesday whenever you watch the film, you're like, oh crap, and especially for the other players. Now, and why I bring that up is because, well, this was just an all-around poor effort from everyone. It wasn't just Robert Coronado because, look, you had the possession. You had 54% possession once again. And it's time and time again that we've seen this. They've got the possession, but then they don't know what to do with it. And I know you've said it multiple times. I think even coaches said it a couple of times.
That's correct.
Yeah, you just don't know what to do with it. And it's strange. They're more of a counter-attacking team, and sure enough, Austin Bold kind of played that way. And what I mean by that is they were playing up to basically a counter-attacking football, and sure enough, it succeeded. It worked. And, I mean, this was all around a poor effort because you only had 2 shots on goal once again.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes back to you need to put more shots on frame to have a shot. You think only 2 shots on goal, maybe if you get lucky, you'll get 1 into the back of the net, but half the time when you have more possession, that's not the case. You see the people with less possession, you see the teams, with less possession ending up having not only more shots on goal, but having the lead and probably the victory, the win. And so, yeah, they did not take advantage of maybe opportunities that they could have had because they had 17 dang shots, but only 2 of them on target. Once again, they came back to their old selves from 2017 to 18.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it was just 7 shots that they had on goal, but it just even then, I get your point because you had more possession, but you weren't able to actually cut through the defense or cut through the bus to make opportunities on goal. And because you look, 7 shots by the Toros, 12 shots by Austin Bold, 7 of those on target, which means even if they just scored 1, they were more effective in creating danger against us than the Toros did against Austin Bold. And let me just say that Nico Corti had a minimum of 2 epic saves before the goal to keep it 0-0.
Yeah, I think even if you look at the replay of not only how that goal happened, he was blocked and couldn't necessarily save that. So goes back to, yes, the defense can only be there for so long. They can only have such an epic game for so long before one of the balls goes into the back of the net. I've said it before. That's just the way that soccer is. You've got to have an attack. You've got to have the whole team has to be ready for 90 minutes. And if you got one side not necessarily working, well, then it's going to create a problem. And, I mean, the lineup shows it all as well. And I don't want to say that it's blamed on them, but Carlos Small. And, of course, you got Monroy, Arcila, and Enriquez right around Carlos Small. Then Martinez Hernandez behind both of Monroy and Enriquez. That whole defense of Samuels, Castellanos, and Adams and Coronado. Coronado, funny thing is he gets subbed out right after, which is of course, that was right after the goal, and it was. I mean, it's nice to see that coach understood. Look, yeah, you created that goal. We're going to sub you. We're going to sub you off because you were kind of a victim of that somewhat. And of course, he saw that that he was getting beat all night, and he wanted to change up. Coach wanted to change it up to see if they could make an impact after that. And sure enough, it was just the offense at fault right after that move. And it goes also back for this offensive lapse, and it started off from there. Because if I'm not mistaken, right before that, you figure out that Michael Salazar, one of your strikers that really helped Carlos Small get on fire, well, he got signed to Houston Dynamo. So now guess what? There's no competition.
Honestly, I don't think that Carlos Small let his guard down now that Salazar is gone. You have to hear me out, because not only did we lose Michael Salazar, we also lost Malik Foster, and we'll talk a little bit more about him specifically later on in the show. But then last week, after the game, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, Jacob, Coach Echeverry confirmed that Wilmer Cabrera Jr. is out of the team as well. He already went to Butler.
Yeah, we had seen Wilmer Cabrera Jr. when you were down with us. We had seen him, and we had known that it was both of their last games, as we had already gotten kind of confirmed that before.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't the Austin Bowl game that we got that confirmed. If I'm not mistaken, we got that confirmed with Colorado Springs Switchbacks game that he was already going to be gone. And yeah,
correct, but everybody made the mention about Brandon Morales and Wilmer Cabrera Jr. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, and don't get me wrong, both those guys are going to be phenomenal. I mean, they're getting their soccer IQ up in Division I soccer, to say the least, which is epic. It's, of course, we all know the way that this whole United States soccer system is. It's frustratingly complicated. As in, it starts off with the NCAA, it goes on to the Division III of USL, to the Division I of USL, and then MLS. And of course, you can go off and choose whichever way you want after that too. So it's a long process in general. But we had kind of known that, well, why wasn't necessarily Brandon Morales playing a lot? Well, here's the fact: he was young, so he goes off there. And then Wilmer Cabrera Jr., we had seen him from his first game to all the way up until Colorado Springs.
But the thing is, like, the difference is Brandon Morales had a lot more competition in his position than Wilmer Cabrera Jr. did. That's why Wilmer, besides the fact that Coach Echeverry saw the Dynamo and Coach Echeverry saw some potential in Wilmer Cabrera Jr., and also the fact is, there really, besides him, there's no central attacking midfielder except for Andres Arcila maybe in this lineup. That's why we saw a lot of minutes being given to Wilmer Cabrera Jr. and not a lot to Brandon Morales, because in front of Brandon Morales, you have obviously Isidro, you have Romilio, you have who am I missing? Not Kevin Rodriguez. I'm trying to remember who else. Come on, it's gonna come back to me eventually. But there's like two more players in front of them, that in front of Brandon Morales in that roster depth for that position.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's understandable. Then once again. Yeah. So my point being, he was already confirmed. Both those players were already basically confirmed at the Colorado Springs Switchbacks that that was their last game that they were going to play before heading off to, well, meet the NCAA deadline, I guess, or whatever it was, school deadline.
So it was. They just told me right now that the reason that Coronado got subbed off in that match was because he got injured.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense why he also said that was my fault, plus now you're being told that he was also injured. Well, there you go. Leading up to it, this man feels a bit of a strain in probably his quad area from hamstring on down or whatever. Of course it's going to slow you down and you're going to get beat, and then it's not going to help that the defense plus whatever is gone. So yeah, just a lot of bad things, but afterwards was the chance for the Toros, not only their bench, but just a couple of other players to really shine and make that comeback, at least get a point back home against this, well, you said it, the senior team of Austin Bold. But they just did not take the opportunity, and they didn't show it for that game at least.
I think there's a lot of hissing coming in from your end.
Oh, what do you mean? Like just air?
Yeah, it sounds like air, kind of like wind noise.
Yeah, that's the problem sometimes with this mic.
Ah, okay. You also, is that one's also a phantom mic, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. All right. So in the end, a 1-0 loss against Austin Bold at home really wasn't that bad of a result. But then you go to that Wednesday, July 3rd.
Yeah, Wednesday, July 3rd, which was a week after this, because if I'm not mistaken, we had a
Correct.
break after, yeah.
Yeah, we had a Saturday break, and then we ended up going to Reno 1868 on July 3rd. And you talked about bench and reserves having to step up, and it's not the first time we talked about it this season on the show or on social media. Going into this match, you see a changed lineup in a lot of places. You do have Nico, you do have Andrew Samuels, you do have Connor Donovan, you do have Kyle Adams, but you have, I believe, was the debut of Carlos Viveros in the left back position. You have Nico Lemoyne back on the lineup, Romilio Hernandez as well, Brad Dunwell, who had been a while since he had played as a starter in this team, in the center defensive midfielder. That's the other player I was trying to remember, Brad Dunwell. And you have Chuy Enriquez, you have Camilo Monroy, you have Carlos the Small. So right then and there, you have Lemoyne trying to cover the spot that Malik Foster left. You have Dunwell coming in the position of Isidro Martinez, and you have Carlos Viveros being given the opportunity to show what he can showcase with this team in favor of Robert Coronado. But it was almost, it wasn't as bad as Real Monarchs, but it was interesting. It was interesting the way they positioned themselves defensively. And Reno 1868, also full of young guys and full of speed, but Reno was able to take advantage of all of it. My biggest concern here in this match, number one, is whenever there was a corner kick or any set piece against RGVFC, Reno 1868 almost always managed to get a touch on that ball. That is very worrisome, but not surprising given what system we're playing in, the Dynamo system. For some reason, under the Dynamo system, we always suffer, whether it's the Dynamo first team or RGV, we seem to suffer a lot with set pieces against.
Well, I mean, to be fair, it's more Dynamo than RGVFC. I've seen RGVFC succeed a bit more this season with set pieces than Houston. But I mean, that's just in my eye.
Maybe you might have a point, but I guess it's just that it just was magnified in this match.
Yeah, of course, I'm not giving any excuse to RGVFC. It doesn't matter. Yes, I do agree. They weren't necessarily their best at that point. And it was just not their best game for anything necessarily. And I do understand, of course, you've got a new man in the backfield, just like you said, Viveros.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, that's really about it for just the really tough, well, just the really new guy, I guess. Besides, of course, yes, Nico Lemoyne having another start, which is great for him. And then, of course, Brad Dunwell also having maybe his first start, if not his first start, then his second or third.
I think it was his third.
He hasn't necessarily had a lot, is my point. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of playing time even this season. Of course, due to the fact he might be a bit injured, or he was a bit injured at the start of the season. Don't necessarily know. It's all kind of speculation in a way. Of course, that's on me. But point being that, yeah, it was a new back line for at least our left side. Their left side, yes, on the back. And then, of course, just like I go back to a bit more with even a central defender, more of the right back side with Dunwell and Lemoyne coming back. And that's all okay because, of course, this is a midweek game. The aim, of course, though, was to get a draw on the road, come back home, and snag 3 points against a suffering Tacoma Defiance team. And, of course, we'll get to that team later.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, the goal was to get 1 point. The goal was to survive and advance for that week, but we could not survive and necessarily advance in a sense, just because, yeah, it was poor playing from the team. And once again, it's going back to gotta take care of your opportunities. You've got to take care of chances. Yes, they didn't necessarily have a lot of chances or even any chances, considering, yes, 7 shots in general, considering, and 2 shots on target, once again, with, well, Reno's 24 shots to 9 on target and a 62% possession rate for Reno and a 38% possession rate for us, which, considering that fact right there, just by possession, you'd think who probably won? Well, RGVFC, with the counter-attacking mechanism that they've been able to produce this season. Again, 2 shots on target.
You know,
And then, of course, your defense can only do so much with the 62% possession rate.
yeah. So you look into this, and 62% possession. You have only 38% by the Toros, and it was just looking at this match, like Reno dominated. I went after the game, I was looking back, and I put up some screenshots on my personal Twitter account. I'll be putting the link in the description so you guys can take a look at that as well, kind of what I saw. But one of the first thing is, number one, you go back and look at the first goal. And just like I put on there, I understand what's going on here. You see Andrew Samuels trying to go up and kind of help start the attack, right? In order to open a lane up for him out right next to the touchline. Connor Donovan is near the right side of the field with the ball. And because of that, there's a huge space between Connor Donovan and Kyle Adams. So Brad Dunwell has to come down and cover for Connor Donovan. But as you go through the play, you see Connor Donovan, instead of going with Andrew Samuels, which maybe would have been easier, don't know. Obviously, I'm not there on the pitch, so I can't really say much. And, hindsight is 20/20. So, but he decides to go long. I believe he was looking for Romelio. But the ball gets intercepted. And because Romelio is also on the right side of the field, and Chalene has to come down. No, it wasn't Romelio, because Romelio didn't play. Because it was Dunwell, and it was Romelio. So, but anyways, there was a huge space that was left between where Brad Dunwell left a spot to guard that position. And so what happened is now you have Gleedle have a lot of space to run and towards the goal. And Brad Dunwell tries to go up and put pressure on him, but Gleedle is able to get past him because he lets the ball go instead of going and meeting for the ball. He lets the ball go and kind of makes the turn to go continue heading straight in the diagonal. And he had Carlos Viveros coming in, but that same diagonal made his momentum. He had to push his momentum to the other side, so he kind of lost his balance there, and that allowed Gleedle more space to go out there, find the shot that is able to get past Nico Corti. But then we go to the second goal. It's a counterattack, but guess who you have out there in the back? You only have Andrew Samuels and I believe and Carlos Viveros. Connor Donovan and Kyle Adams both went up to go score, try to find an opportunity to score on that corner. And Gleedle from his own box runs all the way, gets past Viveros, Dunwell, and Samuels, scores the second goal. They were just left out there exposed. Like you saw the lack of experience of Viveros and Samuels in trying to stop this counterattack. I think they were a little bit too passive, which allowed Gleedle to pretty much run all the way in and take the shot. So right there, you knew this team was not going to have a good night right there. Another thing that I do want to mention, going back with the lack of experience, is if you notice on that play, Andrew Samuels actually tries to go for the offside trap, but his movement to do that offside trap was way after the ball was already touched to pass it to Gleedle, and that allowed Gleedle a lot more room as well to go up, because Samuels, because he slowed down, was never going to be able to catch up with him anymore.
You said it all basically right there. Just a game that, of course, is another one to be forgotten at, again, Reno, a place where RGVFC has never been able to do well at. And it's pretty funny because it always will go back to this now, especially since, well, no more Michael Salazar, no more Malik Foster. I mean, we already knew it coming in that we would not get Malik Foster back.
Mm-hmm.
and we thought there's an outside chance, and of course, we hoped. But now, of course, it's being confirmed on social media that he needed to go to his club to make that transfer once again confirmed. Okay, that's fine. But now it was and is up to the bench warmers. It's up to them. And I know that they had been asking, when will I get my shot? When will I get my chance to play more? Well, now is your chance, not only for then, but of course for future matches, from whether it's Tacoma Defiance 2 or, I don't know, to Phoenix Rising, that's actually the next match, or someone like that. Those players have to take their opportunity. They have to take advantage of this. You want to play in MLS? Show that you are capable of scoring a goal against USL defenders. That started at Reno. Of course, they just dominated. Once again, that's a USL team right there. They look like they should be in MLS. Not this team. None of those players had shown, especially from that game, that they deserve to be in the MLS at all. So, until this team does, oh well.
It's all about the continuous process that the Dynamo has to go through. We keep on talking about it, and I just don't want to talk about it anymore because we always sound like a broken record, and we know there's a lot of good things out of this team. There is a lot. But and I'm just going to go ahead and go directly into this topic, which is we lost 3 out of our 4 main attacking options going for the rest of the season. Our main goal scoring was done through Malik and Michael Salazar. And then Wilmer Cabrera as well. He had, I believe, was like 2 or 3 goals before he left. Most of our goals were through those 4 up top, including Chuy Enriquez. Right now, Chuy's the only one that's left. So now we have to we have to play with a new formation. Coach has to play with a new formation, has to play with new players, and trying to get accustomed to that new formation. It's going to take a while. I hate having to go through this again with mid-season shakeups in our roster because the Dynamo gets our players, or the fact that, with Malik Foster, the Dynamo didn't want anything to do with him, I guess. I feel like if they really were interested in Malik Foster, they would have fought a little bit more with Alajuelense in trying to negotiate. Now it's confirmed that Malik Foster will be playing back in Costa Rica, not with Alajuelense, but with Santos of Costa Rica for the next 6 months. The Costa Rican media, always mentioned the fact that Alajuelense wasn't getting a lot of money out of the deal with the Houston Dynamo for Malik Foster. Not surprised at all. We know how Matt Jordan works, which isn't bad. But I think Malik Foster had grown into an indispensable piece in Coach Echeverry's lineup. With his speed, with his finishing. And now we have to rely more on the Nico Lemoynes. We have to rely more on the Kevin Rodriguez's. We have to rely more on Victor Garza's. Go ahead.
Which is that bad though?
It's not
Absolutely
bad. That's what I was getting at. It's not bad, but what I'm getting at is it's going to take time for them to get used to each other and getting more minutes, getting accustomed to playing alongside Chuy, getting alongside to playing with Carlos Small, but on the pitch we always talk about it all the time. It's not the same in practice when you're out there on the training field than when you're actually in a game. The situations are completely different. You have a lot of variables that are never going to show up, that you can never emulate 100% in practice. That'll test your patience. That'll test your fitness. So it's gonna take used to. Yes, we're probably going to have to continue with this whole goal drought. We're at 3 matches in the goal drought. We couldn't score against Austin Bold. We couldn't score against Reno, and we couldn't score against Tacoma Defiance. But we saw a lot of good things, a lot of improvement from the players that have been coming in, whether it's Kevin Rodriguez, whether it's Camilo Monroy. Camilo Monroy, man, it's got to be one. I like what he brings to the table. Like, to me, like, he's very dynamic. Like, he's very agile. Him and Chuy Enriquez on both wings are gonna drive defenders crazy. But my biggest issue now going into the Tacoma Defiance match is they have to be a lot more, whether Camilo or anybody who's out there on the wing, they have to be a lot more precise with their crossing. We saw many crosses against Tacoma Defiance. None, or very few, actually went to a teammate. Some either they weren't very precise. And if we want to score goals, if we want to give Carlos Small the opportunity to score, if we want to give Chuy the opportunity to score, you got to give him those opportunities, or you got to give him the ball right at him, or in a position where they can take advantage of and put a shot on goal. We saw a couple of headers by Kyle Adams. We saw a couple opportunities right at the end. So it did get a little bit better, but it has to be a lot more consistent. If you have the possession, if you have the opportunities, if you're actually able to go through defenses through the wing, and you want to cause more danger, you have to take advantage of those opportunities, make your passes precise, to give them the opportunity to put it in the net. If they don't put it in the net, okay, that's on them, that's not on you. But if you're not able to give them the opportunity to at least miss it, then that is kind of on you. But like I said, they have to continue to gel together as a new unit now, as a new attacking unit. I don't know how long it's going to last, but we're going to have to be patient, because I do not expect the Houston Dynamo to make any moves during this transfer season that'll benefit the Toros.
Yeah. And I recall a quote from Gerson Echeverry from last Saturday's match versus Tacoma Defiance, or if I really want to, which I kind of do, I'm just going to troll him, or Seattle Sounders too here. But no, the quote was that, well, of course, that's not something that we practice in our game plan, or that was not something in our game plan. That was something for the last-ditch effort that, of course, Kyle Adams coming out is what he was talking about. So, yeah, Kyle Adams was not, he wasn't necessarily meant to be coming out and just attacking like that, although he had the best opportunities he had all game and could not put one in the back of the net, which is fine. But of course, it was just, it was all around poor attacking effort. But good news is 4 shots on target instead of 2, and 14 shots taken in general. So a lot of them just skied the goal. So that's always a positive when you look at it in that way. But of course, you don't necessarily just want positives. You want to win games against teams that you should have won. And also, just speaking about this game, hats off to Tacoma Defiance just for being a bit cheeky. What I mean by that is, after the ball would go out of play even early in the match, what did they do? They kicked the ball a bit further. Did the ref care? Not that much. So they wasted a couple of minutes, which was fine. And, well, yeah, they were just looking for a draw on the road, which is, I mean, hey, if I was coach, I would do exactly that. So it was very smart and tactical from those players when they knew that they had a chance at a draw. So, yeah, it's very frustrating for the offense, but look at this. The defense was on form once again. They showed up in the right way. Looking at the lineup, there was only one yellow card from Sam Junqua.
Who, by the way, I'm actually going to have to give him credit. It'll make it sound like I'm reluctant. But no, I actually going to give Sam Junqua credit in this match. He looked decent out there. He actually looked decent out there, and here's another player, and I told you right after the match through the voice chat. Another player that I have got to say this has been a huge improvement from the last time we saw him play. Zach Jackson. Yeah. Zach Jackson was really good defense-wise, and he also helped out in the attack. So I have to give him props. Hey, I mean, we've criticized players before. I think it's only fair that we actually say the good qualities about them and praise them for their improvements. This doesn't mean that you can rest on your laurels now. We know you can improve, so keep on improving, right? But like I said, huge props to me. Junqua looked good, and so did Zach Jackson as well in this match. You also had in that lineup. Let me get that real quick. Michael Nelson, obviously, coming in from the Dynamo, and then you also had Eric McHugh. So you're talking and this is the most surprising thing in a good way. Because our defensive line for this match, players that rarely play with the Toros and don't get minutes with the Dynamo, which is Junqua and McHugh. Zach Jackson, who is usually a bench player, hadn't received a lot of minutes before, and yet all four of them actually looked good. They communicated well with each other, and I have to give them props for that. That was one of the things that worried me about this match, is seeing like three out of four defenders were brand new, and they look good out there. You had up front, you had Chelin. You positioned in Malik Foster's position. Then you have, it seemed to me like they were playing a 4-4. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it seemed like they were playing like a 4-4-2 formation rather than a 4-2-3-1 formation. Is that correct? Is that what you saw, or did you see a 4-2-3-1 out of the match?
Mainly a 4-2-3-1.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think a couple of times they did kind of go to that diamond formation, but really it stayed at a 4-2-3-1 for most of that match.
Because I saw many times where Kevin Rodriguez was actually like almost next to Ronaldo Pena, like especially during the first half. You saw a lot more of that. Once Eric Bird came in the second half, in the 56th minute, yes, it reverted kind of to a 4-2-3-1 formation. I believe so. So let me look at the substitutions. You had, in the 56th minute, you have Kevin Rodriguez for Eric Bird. So, yeah, he played more of a center attacking midfield position. You saw it in the second half, how participative Eric Bird was, helping out in the attack. And then you had, in the 74th, you had Carlos Small coming in from Ronaldo Pena. Now, I understand why Ronaldo Pena has been sent down to RGV rather than Michael Salazar.
Yep. And of course, there's reasons that, of course, I don't necessarily want to get into just for coach's sake. But, and I'm not hinting at anything at all. Ronaldo Pena played as good as we really expected him to. Of course, because we hadn't seen him on a couple of lineups, aka Houston Dynamo and
We saw him in
RGV.
Open Cup, and he scored goals with the Dynamo in
Exactly.
Open
Yeah.
Cup. But the biggest issue with Ronaldo Pena was his fitness.
Yeah.
And then you started seeing now with the Dynamo, you start seeing Wilmer Cabrera call up a lot more Michael Salazar and putting him in as a substitution and continuously making a difference, or trying to make a difference in that 11 that's on the field. So he's starting to get a lot more confidence from Coach Cabrera compared to Ronaldo Pena. What we're seeing is, because Salazar is a better fit in Wilmer's eyes to his system or what he wants to do, he decides and Ronaldo Pena there's still this whole fitness thing going on. Hey, we'll send him down to RGV, have him get minutes. My biggest concern that we talk about in Generation Orange all the time, if you know that Ronaldo Pena is going to be sent down to RGV, why not have him at least a month? I mean, the G League does it with the Vipers. The Rockets send down a player from Houston down to the Valley, and they're there for an extended period of time, practicing with the Vipers, playing with the Vipers, getting some chemistry with the Vipers. But yet the Dynamo doesn't do that with RGV.
Yeah.
So I feel like if you really want Ronaldo to continuously get minutes, to continuously get better, to hopefully come back to the first team, keep him at RGV. Like, actually have him stay there a month in the Rio Grande Valley, train with Coach Echeverri, train with Carlos Esmal, train with Chuy, train with Nico Lemoyne. Get them accustomed to each other, so that way there can actually be more actual competition, like you mentioned a while back, competition between Carlos Esmal and Ronaldo Pena. Have them kind of lift each other up, kind of be more competitive with each other. We'll start seeing the best of Ronaldo. We'll start seeing the best of Carlos Esmal. And yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and you also bring up a good point, because remember the two times that we saw Juan David Cabezas down here?
Mm-hmm.
The first time, well, he looked a bit out of it. The second time, oh my gosh, it was much better. It takes time. It takes time for you to, of course, and like you said, that's exactly what needs to happen.
Sadly, he hasn't looked the same.
Soccer, let's be clear, it's more different than basketball, and I think you need to spend a lot more time with players in soccer than basketball.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I just wish that, I don't know who makes the decision, whether it's Jordan or Coach Cabrera, but I wish somebody would understand that, and that'll benefit not only the Toros, but it will also benefit the Dynamo in the long term. Sure, you're not going to have him for a couple of weeks in Houston training and watching videos and B-roll or whatever. But if he's not, if you're not even playing him, what good is he doing? Is he doing for you? Just staying there, just being there, just taking up space.
Mm-hmm.
Loan him down to RGV for a month. Have him be here, and then once you see that he's actually ready and you actually need him in your roster, then yeah, call him back up.
Yeah.
Going back with the Vipers, you take a look at Isaiah Hartenstein. How long was he here with the Vipers? He's a Rockets player, but he needed more development, and they kept him at Rio Grande Valley. Only called him up when where they needed some roster depth. They played him, but obviously that's the sport, or that's the nature of basketball. You're allowed to make more substitutions, so you're it's more. What's the word I'm looking for? There's a whole lot more opportunities to get minutes in the first team because of how many substitutions can be made in a game.
Yeah, not to mention it's a bit less, I guess, demanding sometimes on your body. Depending, well, yes, he was a very tall and big player, say so the least. But yeah, in my eyes and everyone's eyes, it is a bit less demanding than soccer, being on the pitch for most likely 90 minutes at least. If, of course, you're not suffering from an injury or coming back from one, you'll probably be playing 60 minutes. So, yeah, it's a bit different than playing probably 5 minutes a quarter and having,
But
10
but the
or
point,
7 minutes of break.
but the point I'm trying to make here is you saw a huge improvement from Isaiah Hartenstein from when he first got sent down to RGV and when he came back for that. I think it was a playoff match that he played a couple of minutes in.
Yeah.
He looked better. But why? Because he had a continuous development at the RGV Vipers, won the championship with the RGV Vipers, gained some more experience, and helped out the Rockets when they needed him. Whereas with the Dynamo, they're just sitting there. They're just training. They're not even sitting on the bench. They're out there up in the stands. They're not getting minutes.
Yeah. Now, of course, a couple of people that were sitting on the bench, of course, the obvious being Aldo Quintanilla. He's still out with a knee injury. But the rest of them, a lot of them that played on Wednesday sat out that game, and so they did not dress up. That includes Connor Donovan.
Mm-hmm.
I did, because, of course, Edson knows where exactly the players do sit, and they sit really close to the front press box. That is where media is, as in the media relations people are, and including monitor. So they sat like right there. So that was, I guess, well, it was interesting to see who wasn't really going to start from minute one, and of course, or not even play throughout that game. Of course, now discounting, of course, Eric Bird and none other than Ronaldo Pena. The rest of the team, well, yeah, they did fine, but we're looking for that. It's not fine by now. We're not looking for that fine. We're looking for they played. Wow, that was a fantastic game by this player. And of course, yes, we've seen that. I mean, Tri Enriquez. And I'll pick on him because, well, he knows, and I know that he can play even better game in and game out. And, of course, like I said, I do this out of I want to see improvement in general. I don't want them to stay the same way game in, game out. What has he done in a while? He hasn't necessarily scored a goal in a while, too. We know that this man not only can get the ball, but can put a shot on target and probably score a goal. Same with, well, Isidro Martinez. He has made incredible assists and a couple of good goals as well. Another player that, well, needs to take advantage of the opportunities. I know he was the star player according to FOTMob, the football app that I look at basically during the game. He got an 8.5 rating, if I'm not mistaken, for that game. So, yeah, just a couple of players just like that for offense that take advantage of your opportunities. It's up to you, the players, to, well, not only win games, but take advantage and make, I don't know, some MLS teams notice. Make the league notice as well.
And we saw that a couple of times with Carlos Small when he had those two braces in a row.
Mm-hmm.
We got to be patient. I mean, that's all I can say right now. We know the talent. We know the talent of these players, but when you make such a sudden movement, it takes a while for them to get back into rest. And I'm going back into like physics kind of thing, but it's the same like that. It's a whole thing. When you put in something that disrupts the resting nature of any matter, it takes a while for it to. Eventually, it's gonna come back into a position of rest. In this case with soccer, eventually they're going to gel up. They're going to get some chemistry within each other with these new starters. But it's gonna take time, and it's gonna take minutes. It's gonna take trial and error. I wish we didn't have to go through this, but that's just the nature of the game. And until the Dynamo change their ways and how they handle this pipeline, there's really nothing we can do. Because it's all about the Dynamo. They're the ones that make the decisions. They're the ones that have to see that this is working or if it's not working. But to them, as long as they can get players, even if they're not ready, it's a success. So just going in right then and there, it doesn't make me feel good. But just because of that, I'm not gonna stop being a Toro, because I love this team to death. We love this team to death, and that's why we're saying this. We as fans, we may be seeing things from the outside in, but we understand that using common sense like this isn't. There are some aspects in this partnership that isn't working. And it's another thing we keep on talking week in and week out.
Yep.
But as long as the Dynamo don't change, we're just gonna have to get. This is gonna have to be one of those. Oh, it's just one of those things. But as this happens, we can't forget that we have to continue to support our players. Obviously, there are some things that we don't like about a match. And we can say like, "Well, I don't like the fact that chances were wasted." Blah blah blah, blah blah blah. But at the end of the day, you have to continue to support this team. You have to continue to support Coach for as long as it can, because he has improved this team. He has improved this team a lot, and he's working with what he's got. He had a starting 11 established that could almost take on anybody in the Western Conference. I mean, let's be honest. Most of the bad games, or the games where points were dropped, were mostly games where we've had to use a couple of MLS starters, or because of scheduling, or not MLS starters, we had to use some MLS reserve players, or games where because of scheduling reasons we've had to put in our reserves. And we've talked about that before. But coach does things for a reason. Whether it's you also have to remember that not only do we have the cup, or not only do we have the USL Championship, in a couple of weeks, it appears that a couple of our RGVFC players are going up to the Dynamo to play against Club America here in Houston. Mm-hmm. We don't know who's going to be called up. But it's 100% confirmed by Wilmer Cabrera that they're going to be using a lot of RGVFC players against Club America. Why? Because of the hectic schedule that the MLS put on the Dynamo. We know that the Dynamo's depth isn't that great, to be honest, talent-wise. We saw it these last couple of matches without our Hondurans, without Kiki Struna.
Well, the road matches at least.
Oh, come on. Did you
against the New York Red Bulls, beating them 4-0?
No. Yes, but we had our starters back already. Well, I'm talking about Open Cup. I'm talking about the matches where we didn't have our starters, where we had to use our depth players, where we had to use Tommy McNamara, where we had to use Marlon Hairston, where we had to use Chris Duval.
Was back when even Hairston started when we were against the New York Red Bulls, and he to me
with the Red Bulls
as well as McNamara. Yes,
I don't think so. I don't.
He was the one that got sent off for a pointless little.
That was Maynard Figueroa. Oh,
it was Figueroa. My bad. They get me confused sometimes. I don't know why. But they do.
Bruh. No, the point is, like we saw, especially on the road, the Def didn't perform as expected, right? But the thing about it is, he's gonna have to use some of these Def players because of this whole Wednesday, Saturday, midweek weekend scheduling that we have, and so because of that, he doesn't want to risk any of the Dynamo players to get injured against Club America. Yep. So to him, it's just easy to say, "Oh, well, let's just bring in RGV players."
Of course it is.
Yeah.
Which is fair. 100%.
Is it though?
Yeah.
Because we have our own championship to worry about.
Well, who owns the club though? That's what it comes down to all the time.
Touche.
Yeah, that's when it sucks. I know that too. I feel your pain. But in the long run, since it's been, 2017, 18, and now 19, 3 years with this same stuff, it's time to realize. It's stupid. Always a farm team.
Sigh. So, going in on that, we have this Saturday, we have the Toros will be hosting Phoenix Rising. The week after, the Toros will be hosting Sacramento Republic. Two very, very good teams, mind you. Right now,
Sac Republic's okay. I'm just kidding.
Well,
Yeah, no,
historically, Sacramento is good. Right now, they're in 10th place right now. Okay, I'll give you that. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Phoenix Rising,
Of course not.
first placed right now. 8-game, if I'm not mistaken, it's a winning streak. 1, 2, 3, 4.
I think it started with us.
7. Well, not counting Open Cup. 1.
Wait, what are you talking about Open Cup for? They had destroyed us when they were at home.
No, I was looking at their schedule, and the Open Cup game against New Mexico United came up. I'm guessing they're counting that as a undefeated because they technically in regular time they tied 2-2, but they lost in penalties. But technically, if you want to go USL specific, right now they have a winning and this is just all wins. Like you said, it started against us, 3-1 win against us in Phoenix, 4-0 win against Las Vegas Lights, 4-2 win against Real Monarchs, 5-0 win against Tulsa Roughnecks, 3-0 win against Orange County, 3-0 win against Reno 1868, at Reno, mind you, 4-1 win against Oklahoma City Energy, at Oklahoma City, 4-2 win against Portland Timbers 2. 8 wins in a row in the USL Championship. That is nothing to ignore.
Nope.
And now they're coming to make it 9 and break the record against the Toros at HEB Park. Is there a reason to be worried? Definitely. There's a definite reason to worry. Number one, we haven't been great on the offense, and we talked about that already. And number two, Phoenix Rising is just so good right now. They have a plus 28 goal difference, 45 goals in favor, 17 goals against. So they're a very high-powered offense.
There.
And right off the bat, I can tell you one player that we're going to really have to be careful for. Yep. Solomon Asante.
Solomon Asante. A regular to the goal of the week, I think.
Pretty much.
He's almost on every other week for goal of the week.
He always manages to score in the most unbelievable way possible. And it's almost like he challenges himself week in and week out. Okay, last week I scored an authentic golazo. How can I make it better kind of thing?
Yeah. I mean, that's what you get when your plus 20 goal differential. First off, you're probably going to get 2, maybe, and well, yeah, just that way you're also undefeated. The only thing that I'd say is, of course, road games are a lot different. Yes, they've got an 8-win streak, but the only difference as well is they have always come to HEB Park, and it's always gotten very physical. And what I mean by that is just, well, it's always an interesting game, whether they win, RGVFC wins, or it becomes a crazy draw. And of course, you know this as well, Edson, when they've played those Desert Cup games, sometimes they meet up against Houston Dynamo. How do they play? Aggressive. They've played aggressive against RGVFC. Now, being a bit more unbiased here, what's the key for Phoenix to win? Well, they've got to not play those mind games, and they've got to be smart when they're up a goal or something like that. Because, I mean, the best memory might have been 2017 or 18 when, of course, they played versus RGVFC. And what did they do? They were up 1 goal, but decided to basically try to lose it. They got maybe 2 players sent off in the 80th minute with close to a 90th minute goal scored by RGVFC. I know that that's at least one game, but that's one thing that, of course, they'd have to be careful about. Now, RGVFC, they don't need to push. They just need to, make those 14 shots, and at least half of them have to be on target for a chance. And we know that they can probably counterattack pretty well, too. They can't pull, the first game at home, where basically they just can't lapse on defense. That's another key. RGVFC cannot lapse on defense, and we know that their defense is up right now, but their offense needs to reach that level that their defense is at to even be talked about having a chance in this game for sure. And of course, pulling off a point, that's not necessarily something that you'd want at home, but against this high-powered team, yes. I take a point any day against Phoenix Rising, especially how hot they have been right now.
Yeah.
And I know sometimes it would be feeling like a loss, but I think it would be a bit different of an atmosphere, especially from Coach too.
Yeah, because it'll give them their confidence back. I mean, okay, we tied against the last place team, so right now their morale's kind of low. It's like, man, I can't believe we tied against last place. But if you tie against first place Phoenix Rising, it's like, hey, I guess we can do this. Especially if they score a goal against this team. I think it'll be the biggest confidence boost for whoever scores it and for the whole team in general. Now imagine if they actually do pull this off and win at home. It'd be crazy.
Yep.
But honestly, first things first, given the circumstances of where both teams are at right now, to me, if you ask me right now, I'd go with a 2-0 to 1 loss. I don't know about you. I would be perfectly content with a draw, honestly, because of the circumstances. But I feel we're gonna suffer. I think we're gonna suffer a lot in the attack as we can going back, just continuously getting back into form. Yeah. So there's that. I think 2-0 to 1 loss.
Yeah, of course. We're most likely gonna lose. But what would be a confidence booster in general? Yes, of course, we're most likely gonna lose this game. But a big thing would be, of course, scoring goals right now. That's one thing to
biggest priority.
Exactly. Score a goal. Hopefully that will be the first goal. And then, of course, yes, if defense lapses, then, of course, next week we'll be kind of blaming the defense as well as seeing what Jerson will have to say come this Saturday. if, that were to be really the case. But yeah, in that long run for that game, it's what kind of look at this as just a main friendly. Yes, this counts for USL play, but you're playing against a first place team sometimes, and this club has been known to do this, to upset teams, especially kind of late around this time. Upsetting teams being, last year, biggest upset, Orange County SC at Orange County. And coming home and just beating a lot of these big, high-powered teams out of the blue. So that's one thing that could end up happening. But a big thing is, how can you make this game that's probably going to be bad, make it a bit better, and look at those positive sides? Yes, you want that win. Most likely it's not going to happen. What can you look at? Yes, a tie would be gorgeous. That's probably the goal in this long run. But can you score a goal? Can you score multiple goals after you score that one goal? Is this team going to get out of this slump, and really show that they're capable of playing not only USL soccer, but most likely playing against, like you said, Club America and their maybe backups? That's always the case, and that will always be just what can we do to improve this game. And once again, I challenge you players, what's it going to take for you to score goals and be better against this club that's probably going to, kick butt in the long run? It's up to you all. It's up to the players.
So going into this match, the all-time record between the Toros and Phoenix Rising at HEB Park, or in the Toros' home, whether it was in the practice fields or at HEB Park, three games, 3 draws. 2016, 1-1. It was a 1-1 draw against, at that time, Arizona United. 2017. Same thing, 1-1 draw against, I think there were still Arizona United at that time. I'm not 100% sure. 2018, 0-0 draw at home against Phoenix Rising FC. So somehow the Phoenix Rising hasn't had a great time at HEB Park. So let's hope that continues coming into this season, and we can at least get a draw against Phoenix Rising and kind of cut off that momentum for them. I mean, it'd be great if we started their momentum and then we come in and end their momentum. I think that'd be awesome. Plus, they don't have dollar beer night at HEB Park, so.
Exactly. Nor do we have, which I totally thought that HEB Park was going to continue that thing that they did last year when you score a goal and everyone basically empties, because I think it's half price beer.
I think that's what it was.
Recall that?
Yeah, I do recall that. Yes.
I don't believe that they have that anymore.
No, they don't.
Exactly. That would be pretty funny. Because that was always a funny thing to witness. Is right as they scored a goal, everyone would empty out of the park for a second to go grab a beer.
Well, I mean, now they have the vendors going up on the stand, so I think that would help out and not empty out the park for that. But I guess maybe they were losing too much money for that. At the end, it's always going to be a business. But all right, so we talked about the previous 3 matches. We talked about this upcoming match against Phoenix Rising. Actually, before we move on, so what is your prediction for this match?
Prediction for this match is probably, I think we suffer a loss, but not a big one for sure. A 2-1 loss. Why? We score the first goal, we get a bit too confident, and then end up letting a goal go. And so it's tied 1-1 at halftime, and then they get us closer to the death around the 70th minute, and we just can't come back from that. Of course, a couple of things do get chippy, a couple of yellow cards issued out, and maybe one red card.
All right, and I said also 2-1 loss. Who will score the Toros' goal?
Who will score the Toros' goal? I think it will be off of a bit of a deflection, and Isidro will get possession and be able to shoot a clean shot into the back of the net.
I think for me, it's going to be my boy Chuy Enriquez. Because I think this time against Phoenix Rising, because you know how he gets the ball and he always tries to cut back inside and take the shot. He hasn't been very successful lately, but I think he's going to find the sweet spot against Phoenix Rising, and he's going to score one from outside the box, a beautiful goal like he would usually would do. Holy crap, my face looks bloated. Anyways, so bold prediction.
Bold prediction, going to stay with, I think, well, actually, no, I'm going to go high scoring a bit more. Defense, both defenses are out of the window somehow. Even the top team gets, and I mean, this is a huge brace for RGVFC. We're talking RGVFC is able to score 3 goals, but still losing. Well, actually, no, tying 3-3 there in a crazy back and forth battle. And not to mention that a couple of players from both, or a couple of players get sent off, one from each team.
All right. My bold prediction is we get Ronaldo Pena loaned down again, and he scores a brace. RGV win it 2-1. That's my bold prediction. Ronaldo Pena gets a brace against Phoenix Rising. Which is really bold.
It's super bold.
Hey, I'm gonna go all out. All right.
Yeah.
So looking forward, we also have another match, Sacramento Republic. We'll talk about that next week. Then we've also got to see who's going to be called up, because in between that match and then the next match for them is going to be an away match. I just don't remember exactly who it's going to be right at the top of my head. Not sure if it's let me look at it right here. Las Vegas Lights. So in between that Las Vegas Lights match and the Sacramento Republic home match, that's where a couple of our players will be called up by the Dynamo to play against Club America. We don't know who's going to get called up. We don't know how many will get called up. But that's going to be something interesting to watch. Now, other news that came up while we were gone, and it pretty much was officialized during the weekend. Malik Foster's not coming back to the Toros. Yep. Not even till the end of the month, like we had supposed, since Transfer Market said that the loan ended the last day of this month. But he's not coming back at all. Apparently, he signed and let me verify if maybe they haven't actually released an update, because on Sunday afternoon going into the night, yes. So he is already, according to Costa Rican media, Malik Foster is already officially a member or a player for Santos de Guapiles. And he's already arrived with the club to start the process, and I think he's starting training. He says Santos de Guapiles, Alajuelense, and Malik Foster have reached an agreement, and the Jamaican player will become a part immediately, a member of Santos. This past Sunday, the president of Santos confirmed the loan for the player for 6 months. However, a couple minutes later, Alajuelense put that news in pause. This on Wednesday, in other words, today, Alajuelense confirmed that Malik returned to the country, but under the orders of Johnny Chavez and the team of Santos de Guapiles. Malik has a contract of 3 years with Alajuelense. On this past January, Alajuelense sent him to Rio Grande Valley of the United States, where he played 11 matches and scored 3 goals. Foster was in the recent Gold Cup with Jamaica, but did not play. The Jamaican is one of the fans of Alajuelense's fans' most favorite players. So that's pretty much it. So it's official. He is already training with Santos de Guapiles. It was good while it lasted, I guess. But
Yeah, I know that one thing, part of that story, I guess they kind of missed, or I saw, and this had been false, is that he had to report to the club in order to make everything official. And they said he had to report to the club by like Monday or so, or something like that. I don't know. And he ended up reporting, apparently, because if not, it wouldn't have been official, and everything would have fallen through because of that. So yeah, it was fun while it lasted. But to be fair, 3 goals in 11 matches. Expected a bit more of that. Wow.
well, the fact is he was playing as a winger though, and he would assist. He had a lot more assists than goals. Honestly, let's take a real quickly. We'll take a look at his stats, player stats. If they haven't deleted him from the website already. Assists. Malik Foster led the team with assists, 4 assists.
Okay.
So he had 3 goals and 4 assists, which isn't bad for the number of games that he played. You know, he had more assists per game than Isidro, who did 4 in 18 appearances.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but the fact is, you know, Malik Foster, we wanted to see him in the Gold Cup. Didn't see him at least there. And now we can't even say goodbye to him. That's the worst part. And I think it's going to hurt a couple of all of the fans that kind of saw what Malik Foster had to offer for the Toros, you know, not being able to give him the last hurrah, that farewell game, you know, at least. I don't know why Alajuelense wanted it like that. But I guess it was just part of the arrangements that they had with the Dynamo. I don't know. To me personally, it kind of hurts. You know, that we didn't that Malik Foster being so elemental to Echeverry's lineup couldn't have given him his goodbye or the thank yous that I think Malik Foster deserved for when he played with this team. Like I said, you know, 4 assists, 3 goals, pretty much tied for 3rd in that aspect. And I don't know, it's just interesting to see that. And like I said, I highly doubt that Matt Jordan has got something planned for us as far as the transfer window for RGV, because right now he's focusing on the Houston Dynamo. He brought in that Chilean defender who they've taught there's really good opinions out of him, so we'll see how he does. But it just seems to me like we're going to have to make do with what we have on our roster, and that's just going to be the way it is from going on out. Now, I'll definitely be surprised if a transfer is announced for the Toros in this window. I mean, it has happened the past couple of years, but I just don't see it repeating. And maybe it's just me being pessimistic about it, because I think I was the same in 2017, and they brought in Justin Bilyeu. Last year, they brought in Carlos Small. Mm-hmm. And when the rumor was happening saying that he was coming to the Dynamo, I was the first skeptic about it. Turns out he came for RGV, and look where he is at right now. Like, he's got 7 goals in 14 matches, and he scored a lot of goals last season while he was with the Toros in the ending part of the 2018 season. You know, getting along real well with Chuy Enriquez. So I hope that I'm surprised in that aspect, but I'm not really expecting much when it comes to transfers.
Well, yeah, and I'm not either, but that's also to be expected. The last time, and I know that we had brought this up on the show, how did the news come of none other than, of Carlos Small? Well, it did not come from a United States or a Houston media outlet. It came from a Panamanian one.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be dead in the water. No fish could be biting for a bit. And then all of a sudden, we could hear something from a totally different media outlet way out into the wonder coming out saying, this player going to Texas RGV. Most likely it being from, of course, a Central American place, if I had to guess. Some outside place. That is an outside chance. It has happened for the past 2 to 3 years. Would not be too shocked. But of course, yeah, once again, it's not up to the coach. It's up to Houston to see what they want to do, to see what Matt Jordan wants to do. I, for one, know that Matt Jordan and Chris Kennedy and all of them want more depth in their team because depth just gets scarce around this time, so they want extra depth coming into next season to make sure that they can get someone good. So I would not be shocked to see a player get signed for RGVFC for half a season. Not be shocked at all. Who knows? Maybe we'll see that Chilean come down for a couple of matches for RGV just to get his fitness up to tempo.
Correct, because he's coming in from a break as well. So he's gonna have to get some fitness while because MLS is pretty much we're in the middle of MLS and USL. I mean, we already have. I mean, I highly doubted that they'll do that because we already have AJD, but I think it makes the best sense to loan him down maybe 2 weeks to get him back into match fitness, and I think he will be a good help for RGV and help out the guys. Only if he's there all this time and not like, oh, right at the last minute, okay, you're going down to RGV kind of thing. But yeah, that's pretty much it when it comes to that. Now let's talk about Gold Cup because I know you've been wanting to talk about that for a while.
Not really.
Well, Well, now we're going to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yesterday we had a very interesting conversation, Sean and I, about it. But I want you to give me your thoughts about that final against Mexico. What are your thoughts about how they played in the final, the U.S. men's national team?
Okay, well, I can start with this. Tata Martino is a legend, as in coaching wise.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, you know this to be sure. Oh my gosh, USA were dominating that first half. Except for the same thing that we've talked about for Toros. They did not put away the opportunities that the stupidest goalkeeper ever gave them. I mean, you've got to agree with me that he looked like he didn't know what he was doing in that first half. Ochoa did.
I disagree with you. I disagree with you 100%.
The goal open like that half the time.
When did that happen? The biggest fault there was Salcedo and Hector Moreno. They left room wide open for Pulisic and Altidore to run through. I actually think that Ochoa actually did a decent job covering the angles in that Altidore miss in the 8th minute.
Yeah. I mean, Altidore miss, let me tell you something, he just shanked it. He whiffed it. He hit it off his boot wrong. And that's so stupid, or it's just dumb, because you play for Toronto and you're scoring goals like crazy sometimes. and you come here and you can't hit, once again, a solid, simple, pretty open goal. I mean,
It was a one-on-one opportunity.
You could tell it off his shoe, the way that it landed. It just, no. You got to put that away. Yeah, sure. Mexico's players, cool, they were marked decently, but that ball is going in 90% of the time. Other times if it's taken by someone else, apparently. Because once again, Josie Altidore, oh my goodness, he was one of the reasons why they lost to Trinidad and Tobago. Goes back to that. Same thing with Michael Bradley, once again. Not taking care of your chances in the first half, sure enough, cost you in the second half. Because guess what? Mexico played a fantastic half. One of their best in the tournament, and probably the only good half that Mexico has played in a while for that Gold Cup. I mean, it's no joke that that Mexico, and I'd watched the games, really came to play in those extra time periods. And somewhat, of course, in the penalties when they had Ochoa actually focused again. It's kind of true. And so yeah, Mexico came out of that second half, and oh my gosh, they looked like a brand new team. And it's crazy. And then of course, it has to be one of the LA players, to be exact, because Carlos Vela did not show up to the Gold Cup at all. But it was Jonathan Dos Santos. That's for that goal, correct?
Was that thunder? Holy crap, that was loud. Sorry about that. So I just heard a loud noise, and it sounded like either crash or thunder, but it sounded more like a really loud, really close thunder. I was surprised because I didn't think it was like that cloudy. But so I definitely agree on your take, and one of the things I was trying to say yesterday to Sean is like, yes, the referee was, when it came time to actually make decisions, whether it was, the choke on Weston McKennie, didn't make the right decisions. But at the end of the day, had Altidore put in that goal in the 8th minute, had they taken advantage of that momentum where they had the momentum, they had all the opportunities.
Yeah.
We could, I think that the U.S. national team could have actually taken the final. Because now Mexico, in their bad momentum, would have had to climb the mountain, would have had to take more risks, would have had to open up more space. The speed of Pulisic could and even the strength and speed of Josie Altidore could have taken advantage. But at 100%. In the end, they didn't. Mexico got in their groove, and at the end of the day, I don't care if Sean calls it a lucky goal, but they were able to get, even if there was just one goal, they were able to get it in. Now, granted, I did say that the U.S. national team, I did see a lot of good things out of it. But at the end of the day, those misses and the horrible subbing by Greg Berhalter were the difference. Because they could have taken this match. And we talk all the good things about Tata Martino. But this national team, even with all of its doubts, they were able to hold Tata Martino's Mexico to just a 1-goal lead.
Yeah. But once again, I know that you're probably not going to be one of them right now, but for sure there are Mexico fans all over the world or country or whatever, from USA to, of course, Mexico, that would say, well, we didn't bring our A team. It was, of course, a B-plus team. That is fair, because we even say that too. From Stu Holden to me. That was a B-plus team that Mexico brought. But why? Well, because you've even said it. Well, they're trying to figure out their own youth system. Considering, I don't know, Jonathan Dos Santos ain't that young. He's sure as heck ain't going to be that young in 4 years. Same thing with Carlos Vela, Garrido, which is pretty much done with the national team, I think.
Yeah, pretty much.
Who else? I mean, yeah, Ochoa will be there maybe 4 more years as well as a goalkeeper. Because goalkeepers, well, they can play for a long
But now
time.
Mexico's going to see a lot more Charlie Rodriguez's, a lot more Uriel Antunas, a lot, all these younger players, You're going to have your Chucky Lozanos. Not sure about Tecatito because of this whole ordeal they had. But it's also going through Mexico's also going through a generational phase. So, and the fact is, a couple of your 18ers, they felt they were too much of a divas. Oh, I saw that. Holy crap, that is close. Lightning.
That was loud. I haven't heard that.
But, going back, it's like they're going through a generational phase, and a couple of their A teams were divas like, no, I don't want to go play the Gold Cup because I don't want to get injured. Everybody plays dirty in the CONCACAF Gold Cup, blah, 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 blah. But guess what? It was a blessing in disguise because it served as a platform for lesser-known players like Antuna to showcase what they've got, and they showcased it well. And that might probably mean that they're going to have a lot more Tata Martino's going to have a lot more confidence in them. The same thing could be said about the U.S. national team. I did completely disagree with them having Altidore and Bradley. But it makes sense. Why? Because they have, like it or not, Altidore and Bradley have experience. Especially when you have young guys, coming up to the system. You want to have some experience to kind of lead them into these kind of in these kinds of tournaments. Sadly, a couple of their mistakes kind of cost the U.S. men's national team, the tournament. But at the end of the day, you cannot rely 100% on youth. We see that so many times. You got to have a mix of youth and experience to guide them as they go through, as they continue to develop. As the World Cup qualifiers go in, you're going to see a lot more Josh Sargent, a lot more Bobby Woods, a lot more... help me out here, man.
Wait, you're even going to see a lot more John Brooks.
Exactly.
What I mean by that, John Brooks, yes, he would have been perfect for this tournament, but he got injured. Just came off of a long season as well and was actually, quote-unquote, injured. Yeah. That was one of them, as well as... there's also someone else that I'm blanking on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and who was it that played with that was in the preliminary roster and that got cut? He was also a young guy that he didn't go to the under-20s because he was with the preliminary senior team roster, and then ended up getting cut, and everybody was throwing a big deal about why they cut him and why he didn't end up going with the under-20s.
I do not know. You say it.
I wish I could remember.
Your Gold Cup roster, I got you.
Yeah. Because he played in that match right in that day where I think it was against Jamaica.
Oh yeah, there's Ethan Horvath, Sean Johnson, Tyler Miller, Tyler Adams.
Man, I'm glad that my car is now under a roof because apparently this thing is producing a little bit of hail.
That's fun.
No, that's a 1-3. Hold on.
Cameron Carter-Vickers is another one. That's a big defender.
Yeah.
Did not get picked.
6.
Yeah, there's a lot, especially for defenders. There's a lot of good players. Bootman is another, and oh my gosh, that storm.
You heard that, didn't you?
Do we need to end this now?
No, I think we should be good. I'm trying to see who it was. Johnson? No. Zimmerman? Roldan? Sargent. It was Sargent. Josh Sargent.
Apparently it was Sargent. Yeah.
Yeah. But that, I mean, at the end of the day, Mexico won. There were some questions about how they won. It was terrible refereeing on both ends. But then again, I mean, that's typical CONCACAF.
Typical CONCACAF. I do want to real quick say something about that because earlier in that match, I did notice something suspicious, but then again, I'm an American fan. I can think anything is suspicious, really. But it was at the start of the match where was kind of a bad foul, but it got called towards Mexico, as in it was Mexico's ball instead of USA's ball when Mexico created the foul. It was very weird. But he ended up really quickly talking to the ref or talking to the player. I forget which Mexico player it was, and it was kind of weird. I could kind of read his lips, but it really seemed like he was saying, you got to calm down the play, you've got to kind of stop doing this, or else I can't necessarily call it the way that you will expect.
Now, granted, what I did like about the ref, even though some of his decisions were bad, well, at least he wasn't card happy.
I wish he was, though. It's the final. You can be card happy.
Alex, no, that's right now. It's still out in the Gulf. It's still far away. They're saying it might make landfall in Louisiana about, like Friday afternoon. So no, I don't think this, because this little storm is just isolated over here over Jersey Village. Like, it's not even big enough to actually come out on the radar. But you can.
Oh,
yeah.
That's fun.
But you can actually see that little storm where it's saying, oh, there's hail going on. But yeah, it's kind of thundering really bad, and there's heavy rain. But I don't think it's gonna. Holy crap! That was bright. But yeah, going on to a different topic before we close down the show. And Blues fan was the one that. Okay, let me read the chat for a little bit. Alex says Zardes was a bad sub. They should have brought in Josh Sargent instead because he can hold the ball better than Zardes. And then Blues fan says, I want to hear what you guys think about the now confirmed changes to the 2022 World Cup qualifying for CONCACAF.
I have not. Yeah, that's a great topic, because if you could explain about that, are they actually changing it to tournament style?
No. Okay. So this is what's happening starting for the 20. Is it for 2022 or for 2026 though? As I thought it was
2026 USA, Canada, Mexico. It's a trifecta.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. Let me double check on CONCACAF's Twitter.
Which, yeah, if it is for the 2026 World Cup, I just gotta say one thing. Why does Mexico want to host?
It's for 2022. Okay.
Okay.
So basically, what's gonna happen is, instead of it being a free for all, where everybody has to qualify to make it to the hexagonal round. Now, basically, what's happening is they're going to take the top 6 ranked CONCACAF member associations. So the top 6 in the FIFA rankings will automatically go into the hexagonal and play each other there. The other half ticket will be contested for the rest of the 29 nations. So the rest of the 29 nations of CONCACAF will have to fight for that half ticket to play the intercontinental qualification against whoever it ends up being for 2022. But as for right now, but basically what it means is that the top 6, it's going to make a lot of sense to be the highest ranked in the FIFA rankings possible in CONCACAF, because you get to play a whole lot less games in order to qualify for a straight ticket, rather than fighting for a half ticket or for the 3.5 tickets based on the hexagonal, because you have to go through that preliminary phase and then qualify for hexagonal. This is going to greatly benefit the big guys, but it's greatly going to affect negatively the minnows, the smaller CONCACAF nations.
Okay. So you're talking like right now it would be USA, Mexico for sure locked in, with probably Costa Rica right behind, and then
Jamaica.
Yeah, Jamaica.
So right now,
Honduras would be very sketchy, but probably make it too.
if you look at the FIFA rankings for CONCACAF, the top 6 are Mexico in 18th, USA in 30th, Costa Rica in 39th, Jamaica in 54th, Honduras 61, and El Salvador 69th.
El Salvador, that would be insane.
So those 6 national teams, if that qualification was right now, it'd be those 6 national teams fighting for the top 3 tickets, 2 or 3 tickets. I don't remember exactly if they changed that as well. But the point is they're fighting for those direct tickets. Everybody else from Canada all the way down to the Bahamas will have to fight for that half a ticket. And basically what they're saying is let me read real quick their announcement from CONCACAF. Oh, by the way, in Open Cup, Atlanta United defeats St. Louis 2-0. Minnesota United to completely annihilate New Mexico United 6-1. Or it's still in the 87th minute. And Orlando City and New York City FC are in extra time, 1-1. So CONCACAF says the first part of the CONCACAF qualifiers will be played in a hexagonal format, will be contested between the top 6 ranked CONCACAF member associations based on the FIFA ranking published after the FIFA window of June 2020. After home and away round-robin play during the FIFA match windows of September, October, November of 2020, and March and September of 2021, the top 3 teams will qualify directly to the FIFA World Cup Qatar 2022. The second part of the qualifiers, played across a group stage and knockout phase, will involve the CONCACAF member associations ranked 7 to 35, according to the FIFA ranking published after the FIFA window that said before. For the group stage, these 29 participating CONCACAF member associations will be divided into 8 groups, 5 groups of 4 teams and 3 groups of 3 teams. After home and away round-robin play during the FIFA match windows of September to November of 2020, the first place finishers in each of the 8 groups will qualify for the knockout stage. The quarterfinals and semifinals and finals of that knockout phase will all be played in home and away direct elimination format during the FIFA match windows of March, June, and September 2021. The winner of the knockout phase will face the 4th place finisher of the hexagonal group to determine the CONCACAF representative in the FIFA Intercontinental Playoff. The home and away matches between the 2 CONCACAF representatives will take place during the FIFA match window of October 2021. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely crazy. So it's basically stating like there's going to be no qualifications this year, which normally it starts around 2019 to 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Which means, yeah, we'll probably, instead of ending it around, like, or instead of teams like USA almost not making it into the hexagonal, they're going to automatically be in. So basically qualifying will start for both, like, all top 6 teams next year.
Mm-hmm.
Is basically what they're saying, which is pretty crazy. Of course, yeah, qualifying this year, especially for big teams like Mexico and USA, will only be for the Olympics, because if I'm not mistaken, that qualification starts up pretty soon for U20.
Yeah. So looking at the chat, I'll go back into it based on this topic. Blues fan says only benefits the top 6 and makes it a marathon to only face the 4th place side from the hex. Oh, and so they face the 4th place side before deciding who goes. So the winner of the 7th through 35 face 4th place of the hexagonal. The winner of that match is the one that goes to the Intercontinental Playoff. I don't think I saw that in the announcement, but I'll take Blues fan word for it. It says, and then they still have to face the other possible intercontinental sides for a slight grasp for a World Cup spot. They can say that they made a World Cup more inclusive, but straight up kills the game by halting developing countries because they won't get the opportunity to play the big countries in CONCACAF. A farce. I was excited for the qualifiers, but now I probably won't even bother. The system is a joke and basically CONCACAF's way to rig the system.
Well, yeah, because I'm pretty sure they lost a ton of rating when the United States men's were eliminated from World Cup play, aka not making it to the final big stage. Because, I mean, let's remember, this is all World Cup play right now. Because once a team gets eliminated, and I did put this on Twitter because I do recall the darkest day of, well, my remembrance of U.S. men's soccer was when they said U.S. men's have been eliminated from World Cup play or something like that. Because, of course, yeah, it's a World Cup qualifier. You're in this World Cup until, of course, you're eliminated from it, but you don't make the final round of 32 teams or whatever it is. Yeah, 32 teams until, well, it's finally done and dusted and, now Qatar is set.
But, see, you say that, but, it's usually always... Here's the thing, though. It's usually the top four will usually always be the same. Mexico, Costa Rica, Honduras, and the United States. It's usually going to be those four. So usually the other two are usually the ones that you'll see some newcomers like Trinidad and Tobago last time. But, it
was Panama last time, actually.
Well, yeah, and Trinidad and Tobago.
Mm-hmm.
But like surprise, because Panama is still a decent team in CONCACAF, especially in that qualification.
Adolfo Machado.
But the only thing that I see is that it gives Mexico and all these top six teams, it gives them a lot more rest technically, and it kind of shields them from the brunt of CONCACAF. It's like they're protecting their gold laying goose, if you want to call it like geese, if you want to call it like that. To me, it doesn't seem fair because obviously all of these, even though 9 times out of 10 they're gonna lose against the top teams in CONCACAF, but at least it gives them an opportunity for exposure. It gives them an opportunity to travel to the United States, travel to Mexico, play there. Gives them an opportunity for a surprise. Now, this kind of qualification system eliminates that. There's still the possibility that Mexico or Honduras not make it like the United States didn't make it for the 2018 World Cup.
Yep.
In the round robin.
I mean, they almost didn't make it in 2014 too.
But here's another thing that number one, I'm not really a huge fan of the FIFA rankings. I usually think they're kind of BS. Sometimes the way it's calculated, and guess what? It also gives Mexico and the United States a huge advantage because they have they have more financial power to bring in bigger national teams and play friendlies against them.
Yep.
And all of that is taken into consideration for FIFA rankings.
Yep. Play the Spains, the Germanys, the France for sure. Mm-hmm. The French to be exact. I don't know who else really would be huge.
Yeah.
But yeah, you
Netherlands.
Yeah, the Netherlands, exactly.
Exactly.
Even though Holland did not make it as well.
But it's still a traditional great in UEFA.
Yeah. Same thing with Italy, even though Italy did not make it too.
Mm-hmm.
Which also, real quick, I have to say this one thing. You may not like it, Edson, but whatever. Because this player from Mexico, I think it was Gallardo, he looks like an Italian player. If you have not noticed that, he really does look like an Italian player.
Why does
My friend Michael and I were talking about it when we were at Pawn Shop Bar, where American Outlaws are for RGV.
Why does it look like an Italian player?
Because he's got the classic long hair. He's got that last name, and looks more like an Italian.
So Blues fan says, he says seeing some Twitter accounts defending this format is hilarious at best and at worst clueless. Gee, that sounds like Kim's article on the Houston Dash, but that's not.
Oh my gosh.
That's not.
Also that thread too.
It was cringeworthy.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, but that was just plain stupidity.
Yeah, and then I heard you and Sean say about this. All I've got to say on that is, well,
I honestly think that Sean was being very cautious in calling that writer out, and I just went all out blasting her.
Fun.
Even on social media. Like I called her, I'm sorry, I called her stupid and
Okay, yeah. You might have crossed the line.
But
at the same time, no, I get your point. I get everyone's point. It's not about the players, it's about the club.
yeah.
You got to just support NWSL in general, whether it has players, national team players on it or not. That's the growth of, well, the national team too.
Exactly. So Blues fan said, I'm irate on how CONCACAF can ruin the way the system was. The Hex was great because you had to qualify, not gifted your spot based off a ranking system that is in itself fallible. Not even that, they still have a parachute in case the big countries can only muster a fourth place spot in the Hex.
What's really the parachute? I know it's that extra game, but that doesn't that always happen?
Because if they get the fourth place spot, instead of here's the thing. Even in the current thing, even if you get a fourth place spot, you at least you're automatically going to get that half ticket. Now you have to play an extra game against a lower team to get that half a ticket. It makes no sense. It makes no sense.
You don't even have to play most likely the Oceanic.
No. So basically
Oh, okay.
top 3 go directly to the World Cup. The fourth place in the hexagonal plays the winner of 7 through 29 or 7 to 35 of the CONCACAF rank. That other little tournament that's being made for the little minnows. They have to play the winner of that tournament. The fourth place in the hexagonal has to play the winner of that tournament to get to that half a ticket in the intercontinental playoff spot. It's an extra game that is completely unnecessary.
Oh, okay. So, if you win that, you still will have to play that playoff game.
Correct.
That's to get the ticket to the playoff game. Wow. Okay.
Correct.
Yeah, that is a bit unnecessary. But at the same time, what are you going to do with that extra team that wins that too? It's very interesting. Because even then, you could see an extra Oceanic team go instead of an extra CONCACAF team go to the playoffs too. So,
go
to the World Cup too. So.
But the point is like they're adding an extra step to save a step for the Big Six, which makes absolutely no sense because at the other one for sure that it's your top 6 of the whole CONCACAF.
Yeah.
Whereas you're going by the ratings, you can probably have have a higher rating, but if you actually face off against somebody else in CONCACAF, you might lose to it. So you're not really qualifying to the hexagonal by merit. It's just playing the system. That's what people are mad about it. And they want to make it seem like, oh, it's fair for the little minnows they get a chance to get that half a ticket. But at the end, it's like it just doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
But to be fair to CONCACAF for at least one thing is we've seen it happen before. So it's not like upsets can't happen. Once again, it is sports. Not defending them completely. Yes, it is a waste of a little extra spot. But at the same exact time, it's not like we haven't seen that happen before, where it's been an upset.
I mean, it's CONCACAF, Yeah. But that's the way it is. That's how it's going to be, and there's nothing that we can do. Soccer's going through a lot of changes in the international level, not only in FIFA, but the individual confederations are going through some changes as well. We're obviously
I
not.
think it's also thankfully too.
Yeah. We don't know exactly how much of a good thing that is, but we're just gonna have to get used to it. And I know it's easy for us as Mexico and USA fans to kind of have a more positive outlook at this. But if you're a fan of El Salvador, if you're a fan of Panama, if you're a fan of Honduras, yes, it's gonna hurt a lot more. And that's why Blues fan is a lot more irate about it than anybody else.
Well, didn't you say that El Salvador was one of the last 6 teams?
Yes, but remember that these FIFA rankings can fluctuate greatly at any time.
Yeah.
And not necessarily based on because you faced another CONCACAF team. It's just based on what kind of tournaments you like. For example, okay, so let's say Mexico was still in Copa America, right?
Yeah.
They get more points into their system for going to and playing in tournaments of higher reputation, official tournaments with higher reputation. CONMEBOL has better. I don't know if that works. I don't know. I don't know if that's a good thing or not a good thing, but a good example. But let's say you got Gold Cup. If Confederations was still a thing, which it's not, so it's not going to be an issue. But if Confederations was still a thing, that gives that team who makes it to the Confederations Cup for CONCACAF gives them a bigger advantage, especially if they win games in that Confederations, because they have a bigger weight than playing friendlies against or even playing against San Marino or all these little teams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, just to let you know, if it was still a thing, that Confederations Cup was still a thing, then it would be another playoff match between USA and Mexico. Yeah. Because the past 2 Gold Cup winners have been USA and Mexico. Mm-hmm. So we would have clinched the spot into a playoff, and we would have had to win one more time, and you all would have basically just said, "Okay, yeah, you're playing us."
But yeah, that's all. That's what there is to it. No. You're welcome, Blues fan. You've. I think it's an interesting topic to talk about because it's so hot and because it's affecting everybody, and especially like I said, the fans of El Salvador or all those other borderline, you've been calling the borderline teams. Alex Centeno says we should get a Nations League with North America and South America together. I wish that would happen, but that's never going to happen. Too many money interests.
Just too many.
Yeah. But guys, that's gonna be it for today's show. Really good show. Blues fan says they won't keep their spot, and I don't think it's right that El Salvador gets a spot based off the FIFA rankings. I know there are much better sides being left out, and it is deplorable that they suffer. Agreed. But we'll see what happens over there in 2020. In the meantime, thank you so much for all of your support. Appreciate all of your patience for all this time that we were off of the air. But we're back, and we're going to try our best to be consistent once again. If you guys have not done so, be sure to like this video. Be sure to share it and subscribe if you haven't done so already as well. And share our content on Twitter. Comment about it. We're open. Jacob as well as I are open to talking on our social media about the Toros, about U.S. soccer, about international soccer, whatever. As long as it's soccer, we'd love to talk about it. I know we didn't get a chance to talk about the women's World Cup. Congratulations to them. But we will leave that topic maybe for next week's episode because it's already past 9:00 right now. Jacob, thank you so much for coming in tonight. Hopefully by next week I should get all of the bugs that we had today fixed, and we'll be 100% back to normal. Don't forget, people that live in the Rio Grande Valley, this Saturday Toros are playing against Phoenix Rising at 7:30 p.m. at HEB Park. So be sure to go out there, be loud, and support your Toros. next Saturday against Sacramento Republic as well. Go out there, support the Toros. Jacob, any last words before we go?
Excited for this upcoming Saturday's game, just because, I mean, it's always fun to go to HEB Park and watch some good soccer. I know it's probably going to be great. Watching first place versus a team that's just got to get out of a rut. Simple as that. So it should be a very interesting match.
Of course, and hopefully we can get at least a tie. But it'd be a great surprise to see them win. We always want to see the team win. Don't get us wrong. Even if we say, oh, they're gonna lose or they're gonna tie, we always want to see this team win because we love it. So don't get bummed out if we say something that's kind of negative in that aspect. We love you guys. We love you guys as a team. We love you, Coach. But sometimes we have to call a spade a spade.
Yep. It's up to you players to really take advantage of this opportunity that you all have, for sure, to score some goals this Saturday, prove everyone wrong, and, well, to show that Coach is doing the right thing in starting you all. Because we know that you all practice hard.
Yes.
But it's up to you all to not get stage fright and play really freaking good.
And don't get me wrong, I wish I was fit enough. I wish I had the capacity, the talent to be out there on the pitch and pretty much walk the walk or walk the talk. I forgot how you say it, but I wish I wish I could do that. But I'm just a guy with a podcast. Jacob's also a guy with a podcast too. Mm-hmm. That's what we ended up being. It's just things that are outside looking in. You can take it positively. You can take it as a motivation, or take it as constructive criticism. Or if you want, that's fine. If you don't want to accept it, that's fine by us. It's just we just letting y'all know. We just want the best for this team, and we want the best for you guys because we love you guys as players and fans. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for your support. We'll see each other next week for hopefully we have a lot more topics and we can talk about a win. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week. Take care.